Hey guys, Delora Dabbles here, and I am I have some unfortunate news to tell you guys that I will not be doing a longer video or a topic video this week. This is just an update video to let you guys kind of know what's going on in my life right now. It's kind of why it's like and unedited and everything. Not that I heavily edit my videos anyway, so long story short, Fred is in the kitty hospital. He had to have surgery this morning because he ate a foreign object and swallowed it. And it has been like from Monday to now, it has been an absolute grueling experience. But he's out of surgery. He's recovering. They just want to make sure that he can eat. He's not home yet. He's still at the kitty hospital. And, but he's going to be okay. Like they're just waiting for him to pass it and to make sure that it passes because he did have the surgery, but they didn't remove the foreign object during the surgery because I have a very skilled veterinary doctor. She is absolutely amazing, and she did like I gave her free reign to do what she needed to do and to do the lab work that she needed to do so that whenever she went in to do the surgery, she was able to make the decision to not cut open his small intestine and retrieve the object. Um, and she told me that he was very um, inflamed. There was a lot of inflammation in his bowels, and that her best course of action for him in his recovery and to not do more damage, than good, was to just massage the foreign material semi blockage. It was a semi blockage, like not a big one, a very small blockage. That it was small enough and soft enough of a blockage to just move it down into the colon instead of opening him up, which I had never actually heard of, but that makes a lot more sense when you really think about it. So having, instead of doing more harm than good, or more harm than death in this case, she was like, the best thing that I can do, like, yes, if I cut him open and remove it, I will still be helping, it will still be good, but to get optimum results and optimal health out of this situation, the best thing I can do is to move it on down into the colon where it will pass naturally. So that's exactly what she did, which means that his recovery is going to be even better than expected. Which, if you guys follow me on Instagram, I did a health reading. It was the dog, the scythe, and the clover. So in health readings, the dog is a good doctor, the scythe is surgery, and the clover is speedy recovery. So, and I'm getting that information. This is one of my favorite books. It's an ebook that I have. Lenormand 36 Cards by Andy. Okay, it's really not going to focus. Borovishangra. So I will link that down below in case you guys are interested. But the full reading is on my Instagram. So I knew yesterday, even before the veterinary doctor told me that he would definitely have to have surgery whenever I knew he was going to have surgery because I pulled the scythe card. I was like, he's going to have surgery. Like, the minute I saw it, I was like, surgery? Ah. But the speedy recovery and the dog being the good doctor, I was like, he's in good hands and he's going to be okay. And that brought me so much comfort, but still low key, I was very upset yesterday. And of course, being in this kind of state of mind, it's difficult to be creative. I feel like a lot of my energy was spent being like, Fred, I hope you can feel how much I miss you and love you, and I hope I'm sending you warmth, Fred. I'm gonna meditate and send you warmth. Like, Brad, get over here. We're sending Fred warmth. Like, picks up other cat, puts in lap. We're sending Fred our love, so that was me yesterday. um, as silly as I do. Um, and of course, my vet clinic is very good. I went and visited Fred today, even though he couldn't come home, and I just, with my cats being rescues, I don't want them to ever feel like I've abandoned them. Because I mean, like, I don't want him to be sitting in a cage with all these other animals in the back of this, vet clinic and thinking like, oh no, like I'm here again. Like, ah, I'm alone. Like, ugh. I have not observed that Fred has any kind of abandonment issues, but Brad does. Brad has abandonment issues out the butt. Look at him hugging my arm. So, Brad is 17 pounds. Let me guys just give you a little backstory on Brad here. He's huge. He's absolutely freaking huge. Um, I have only had Brad for a year and a half. He's 5.5 years old. He was adopted out as a kitten, and then his previous owner had a very good reason for having to put him back. Basically, she had a premature baby that had a lot of respiratory problems. So having animals in the house, she had to give up her dog. She had to surrender her dog and her 2 cats, which was probably, I mean, my sister just had a premature baby this year, and I cannot imagine um, what that must have been like for her. So what I don't like about this organization that I adopted my cat from, and I'm not going to talk shit, but they will decide to separate some bonded pairs of cats, but not others. So, because there was a cat before I got Fred that I wanted to adopt, and I saw him on the adoption list, and I called them to adopt him, and they were like, "Oh, you have to adopt Jack too." And I was like, "Who's Jack?" They're like, "Oh, they're a bonded pair." And I was like, Brad had a bonded pair. Brad was adopted with another kitten from the same organization, all from the same organization. And whenever I adopted Brad, it was almost like they didn't want me to adopt him. Like they were like, he's a really big cat. He's a big boy. Like if he's too big for you, we've got kittens. Like I think they had just resigned themselves to the fact that he would never be adopted. I don't know. But whenever I came back to adopt Fred, they were like, "Oh, you adopted our Brad. We were so afraid no one would ever adopt him, and you adopted him. You're such a good person." And I'm like, I wanted a big cat. I wanted a big, fluffy cat. Like, I wanted a cat that was as close to as big as a Norwegian forest cat as I could get. Like, I wanted him because he was big. Like, I tried to explain that to them, but they did not listen to me. So during the paperwork process, they let slip, like, because this woman was just gossiping so much about Brad's previous owner and his previous situation, and she told me about his brother, and I was like, "Oh, he has a brother?" And she was like, "Oh yeah." I was like, "Is he up for adoption too?" And she goes, "Because like I didn't have any cats until I got Brad, like." Do you know what I'm saying? Like, and Brad was my emotional support pet. And like, I'm thinking if he's got a brother too, bring them both. Like, why separate them? And anyway, so she was like, "Oh, he was adopted out 6 months ago," which tells me that Brad was abandoned in this house for 6 months. Like, well, not like abandoned in a house by himself, but these people, they mean well, but they'll have upwards of like, I've seen these houses before. They'll have upwards of like 20 cats, 20 or 30 cats in one house. And they've got like a shit ton of scratching posts, and there's bowls of cat food everywhere, and all the water fountains you can see, and everything's clean, and there's a shit ton of litter boxes everywhere too, and like everything's fine, but there's a shit ton of fucking cats there. And this was the same situation that I adopted my very first cat, Watson, out of, who's unfortunately no longer with us. But they told me that he wasn't affectionate. Brad wasn't affectionate. Brad wasn't a lap cat. Couldn't be further from the truth. Like, it took him a couple of months, of course, to like get used to me. And I took one of those like hands off approaches. I was like, here's the house. You live with me now. I feed you. Yeah, that's life. Like, I didn't like overly try to love on him or give him affection. I'd be like, hey, baby, what's up? I would just talk to him, and if he came up, I'd be like, oh, yeah. And like, if he let me pet him, I'd pet him. If he walked away, I wouldn't chase him. And honestly, that was the biggest thing that created the bond between me and Brad and kind of, I think, helped repair some of the abandonment issue that he had. But Brad still gets very upset when I leave. Brad used to have Xanax. Um, this completely turned into a story time about my cats. I hope y'all don't mind. Um, so I got Fred after I finished college because I started working a lot. So I got Fred in June. And Fred was about 9 months old when I got him. So Fred's probably only a year old now, a year and a month or two. So Fred's really not that old. Um, but I got Fred because I knew that Brad needed somebody. I don't really like kittens, but I like fluffy cats. Like that is my only prerequisite for cats is that I want you to be super fluffy. Like, and that's like my like selfish like preference for cats, of course. Um, so the only one that I was able to find was Fred, and he was really young, and I was like, oh, don't have any old boys, like any old fluffy boys. Like they were like, no, and I was like, well, I'll go meet Fred. I'll go see how I like him. And oh, Fred was just so soft and so vibrant and so energetic and kitteny. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I do need like a kitten in my life. And he was 9 months old, so he was a bigger kitten. Um, I do prefer to adopt out older cats simply because no babies, please. Because babies do shit like what Fred did, eating the thing and having to have surgery. Brad, Brad's not gonna do no shit like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, knock on wood. Hold on, knock on wood. Like, Brad's not gonna do no shit like that. Um, Brad's like, the fuck did you just do that for? Brad is an old man, like the grumpy old man. He just lets me do whatever I want to him too. But we've both been missing Fred a lot. It'll be good to have him back. But yeah, once I brought Fred home and they got acclimated to each other, they get on each other's nerves, but they're bonded at this point, and like it's so cute because like you've got like this young kid, you got this grumpy old man, and like the young kid's like, play with me, play with me, play with me, and the old man's like, no, 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 ah! And the kid's like, I'm sorry. And then the old man's like chasing, but then Fred gets what he wants anyway. Fred gets the chase, he gets the play. It's just sometimes he bites off a little more than he can chew. And I'm like, Brad. And Brad's ears go back and he just backs off like, she was watching out for you this time. Like, that's like literally what happens. And it's like the cutest little thing. And like, they play a lot, even whenever Brad is feeling like it. And, I haven't had to give Brad his little kitty Xanax because Brad did have to have Xanax. He was a very anxious little kitty, and if it rained, I took him to the vet and got him the Xanax because it rained for several days in a row, and Bradley completely dehydrated himself, like completely. Like not completely. I gave him some wet food, and that seemed to stave off the worst of it. But whenever I took him into the vet, they were like, "He's dehydrated. What's going on?" And I was like, "I don't know." His ears felt really fucking hot, and they were like, "Yeah, his temperature's up, not too much more than normal, but it is like a degree higher than normal." And I was like, "Yeah." They were like, "What happened?" And I was like, well, the only thing I can think of is it's been raining. And he is very scared of the rain. And they were like, yeah. And I was like, and I brought him wet food, you know. I brought him tuna juice. And I just told him all of the, like, pampering I did, you know, and that he was there. He was in there for like 3 days and barely touched anything I brought him except for the tuna juice. And they were like, okay, this sounds like he probably needs Xanax. And I was like, this sounds very silly to me. Like, what? But I did it and it helped. But he doesn't need that anymore because he's got a buddy, he's got his Fred, he's got his pack, So, um, yeah. and Fred will be back. I really hope he can come home tonight, but obviously, like, I don't want to rush things in case he does need to be under observation, or if he does still need, liquid IV fluid, whatever. Um, but I really hope that he's able to come home tonight, because I know Brad has been very upset. Like, not very upset, but Brad has been, and I've been like, so it's kind of like our little family is like all, mm, we're all nervous and just like, ah. So it'll be nice for everything to get back to normal. Ugh. It'll be nice for everything to get back to normal whenever he comes home, either tonight or tomorrow. So if you stuck around to the end of the video, thank you. I hope that you enjoyed my ramblings about my cats. I haven't really done a video like that before, and this was just supposed to be a very short update video, but um, yeah, if you've had a similar experience with your pets, let's talk about it in the comment section down below. Tell me about it. And or if you have a blog or something, link it. If you have an Instagram, add me, and or tell me your name and I'll add you and all of that good stuff. And I'll be back next week with some witchy goodness or something. And until then, happy dabbling and bye-bye.